Hello, I'm Daniel E Wright and I'm a third-year mathematics student at the University of Essex. As you might imagine, yes, it probably could be the dullest course there is. But it does give me good grounds to talk about tuition fees. Now, don't turn off the video just yet. The tuition fees fiasco has dominated UK news ever since it was announced, including the riots and the scramble over places at university this year to avoid the raised tuition fees next year. But has anyone really taken the time to explain it to you in the simplest terms possible, including how much or how little it affects your future? I'm not here to tell you that the new system is better than the old, and I'm not here to tell you that the old system is better than the new. The only part of your opinion I wish to change is how your loan will affect your future, regardless of its amount. So gather your friends, your family, or anyone you know that is worrying about this, because if you are linked to someone dealing with paying back a scary amount of money for a considerably long amount of time, then I'm here to show you why you have nothing to worry about. And I implore you, watch this video the whole way through. If it doesn't apply to you straight away, then it will eventually. First of all, let's divide everyone into two groups. A student is either part of Group A, the group who have started attending university in September 2011, are currently at university, or have left university in the past few years. Or Group B, who will start attending university as of September 2012 or later. Group A will have had a loan size of roughly £3.3 thousand for tuition fees and £4.4 thousand for maintenance loans, over the course of an average of 3 years, totalling roughly £23,100. They won't pay back a penny of this loan until they are earning over £15,000 a year, and the loan will be paid back by taking 9% of everything earned over £15,000. That is to say, that £15,000 isn't affected at all by the loan ever, and the loan is written off after 25 years. Group B will again have a maintenance loan of about £4.4 thousand a year, give or take a few hundred, but will have far higher tuition fees. It may vary slightly between universities, but for argument's sake, let's go with the highly publicised number £9,000 for each year, totalling £40,200 over 3 years. Again, they can't try and reclaim this off of you until you're in full-time work, and even then they can only reclaim 3% of what you earn over £21,000, and the loan is written off after 30 years. Now, these values are rough models, so if it doesn't matter if your loan is slightly higher or lower, because the general figures will still change the same way over time. We'll focus on Group A first, all you people who are currently at university. When you leave university after doing a single undergraduate course, you'll have borrowed about £23,100. However, your debt will increase over time due to interest. The problem with interest is that in real-world finance, debts gather what is called compound interest, and this will probably be the main horror story most people's parents will tell them about their debt. Here's an example for you. If I lend a friend a pound coin and I know he really needs it, I could say, hey, for every day you don't pay this back, you'll owe me 10p per pound, or 10%. This doesn't mean that if he doesn't pay it back for a week, he has to give me 70p. After the first day, he'll owe me 10%. That's 10p, his debt adds up to £1.10. Next day, he owes me another 10p for every pound. So that's another 10p on the original pound, but also 10% I added on yesterday, which is an extra penny. So he now owes me £1.21. After a week, he owes me £1.95, almost double what he borrowed. In fact, after 25 days, you'd think he'd owe me £3.50, 10p for every day he didn't pay me back, when in fact he'd owe me £10.83. And for every day afterwards he didn't pay me back, the interest will be more than he borrowed from me in the first place. Now that's how debt collectors make their money. The longer you take to pay it, the more you'll owe when they take it from you. Now that story sounds horrible, least of all because I'm charging a friend 10% interest on a pound. If you've heard this story from your parents, you might be inclined to believe that one day your debt will increase by £21,300 for every year you don't pay it back. If it says you at ease, the interest rate on student loans change with the rate of inflation. So at the moment you're looking at 1.5% APR, so interest is added annually. Therefore, you'd have to have the loan for an extremely long time before the interest becomes a large amount. Now, in Group A, we're going to make a few assumptions. Assume you leave university with your £21,300 debt, which will have probably increased to, let's say, £21,700 due to interest whilst you've been studying. Let's also assume you jump straight into employment at a salary of £24,000. Ignoring what the government takes with taxes or whatever, £15,000 of that is yours. You've earned it, the student loan people certainly can't touch it. They look at the remaining £9,000 you've earned and ask for 9% of it, which at the time would be £810. Now, you never see this money. They take it straight out of your paycheck. So assume the 810 gets taken off the debt amount and then they add 1.5% interest to what's left of the debt. You'll be left with roughly £21,203.35. Now, it doesn't sound like a massive change, but assuming you get a pay rise every year, you'll pay off more every year and the interest they add will get smaller each year. Now, the main beauty of the loan is that the debt is wiped after 25 years. Let's say, unfortunately, you stay on £24,000 a year with no pay rises. After 25 years, you'll have paid off £20,250, almost your entire starting debt. But due to interest, you'll still have £6,050 of debt to go. But because the loan only lasts for 25 years, the government foots the rest of the bill. Boom. In total, you've paid £1,000 under your full original loan, and you don't have to pay anything else. And that's just if you stay at the same pay for 25 years. If you assume a pay rise of, say, 3% a year, you'll have paid off your whole loan within 16 years. Now back to Group B. If you've watched the whole video, you may be thinking to yourself, well, that's all very well, but our loan is significantly higher. And you'd be right, it does have a lot of unattractive face value downsides. Each year, the loan is up to £6,000 higher, and you don't even get to see the difference compared to how the university was before the change. So let's assume with interest, the debt has already increased to a nice round £41,000. Now remember, £21,000 is the amount of money they can't touch, and 3% of everything over that is what they take. So say you get that job with £24,000 a year, no pay rises. The first amount they take out of your paycheck is only £90. Sadly, that's a number so small that once the interest has been added on, your debt would increase. However, if you didn't get any pay rises for 30 years, which is highly unlikely anyway, and the interest rate on the loan stayed constant, you would end up having a debt of £57,000, but you would only pay back £2,700 on a loan for £41,000. Now, I'm not saying the system is better or worse, but I will tell you now, to pay off the whole loan within 30 years, you'd have to jump onto a salary of about £50,000 a year. So in summary, let's assume two people get a job in 2015, getting onto that salary of £24,000 with no pay rises. One of those two people graduated that year on the £9,000 tuition fee system. They will pay back £90 a year for 30 years, and the rest gets written off. The other student is me. I'll have been out of university for 3 years by that point, so my debt will have increased from £21,700 to £22,691, assuming I haven't been working. I will pay off £810 for a further 22 years. Now, I'm not going to comment on who's got the better deal. I won't even comment about how much money the government will lose in 2045 when they're writing off debts of £50,000 upwards per student who didn't get a ridiculous high-end job as soon as they left university. What I will say is this. Money that is owed when someone earns a certain amount of money and is taken from someone before they even get to see it can be more defined as a tax than a debt, and since it is unavoidable, should not be fretted over by anyone. The only reason not to go to uni in the new climate is if you're genuinely sure it's not the academic route for you. Do I have any last advice for you? I suppose there are a few scenario-specific tips I can give you. 1. You only have to pay back the loan on paychecks you earn over a certain amount in the UK. Therefore, taking a break after university by travelling or working abroad will increase the debt, but if you don't get a job that wouldn't have paid back the full debt within 25 years if you started straight away anyway, then you would pay off less and write off more, so keep that in mind. 2. Paying off your loan early is an idea most people's parents might tell them, so to them I say this. At the moment, there is a higher interest on cash ISAs than on the student loan. As long as the interest on the loan is lower than the interest on the ISA, the longer you'll be making more money than you would than simply cashing out the ISA and paying off a lump sum of the loan. If the interest on the loan rises, then it's still not really a concern what with the write-off date of the loan, but it'll be a safer bet to pay a lump sum then than otherwise. 3. People might tell you that having a student loan hanging over your head for 25 years will cripple you if you ever want to get a loan for a car or a mortgage on a house. You know, real loans. In today's current economic climate, banks will be ill-advised to be prejudiced to hand out money to people with student loans because when you think about it, in about 5–10 years' time, the majority of our age group are going to be wanting them, and banks can't afford to screw us over anymore. I hope this video has calmed everyone about worrying about the price of higher education. If you need more information, it's available literally everywhere. Newspapers talk about political views on tuition fees. Local companies like Connections and youth groups will advise you about paths to take in life. And as for finance, it's not that complicated when you stare at it for long enough. Even the novel Doctor Who Borrowed Time explains the recession and compound interest with a time stock market and cake. I hope this video has been helpful. And if you're still not sure, just ask yourself what's a better move. Studying and having the chance to do something amazing with your life? Or choosing not to just because you didn't understand what any of these little words meant?